Bees are back in first after the bargain basement boys come up big in Columbus. Let's talk about it all on a brand new episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked Beat. Today is Wednesday, January 3rd, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day every day. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button, and each new episode will be automatically added to your pod feeds, to the YouTube channel for you to enjoy. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Quick reminder before we get into it that you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. And you can find me, my hockey thoughts, and dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. Now, the Bruins playing last night in Columbus, their first game of 2024, and they were able to build on the 3-game winning streak that they had going into the new year with a 4-1 win over the Columbus Blue Jackets. And it was kind of the bargain basement boys that came up big in this one, as I said off the top. Now, if you look back at the offseason for the Bruins, a lot of big names retiring, leaving, and they were replaced with some non-sexy options in James van Riemsdyk, Kevin Shattenkirk. Later on, Danton Heinen joined on a PTO, remained patient through training camp and into the regular season, and he was rewarded with a 1-year contract. Of course, Milan Lucic was also signed to one of these bargain deals, a whole different story. But last night in Columbus, it was Kevin Shattenkirk who opened the scoring with his 5th of the season, his 3rd goal over his last 3 games, I believe. Then it was James van Riemsdyk who scored his 7th goal of the season, a power play goal from Jake DeBrusk and Hampus Lindholm to make it 2-1 after Ken Johnson, scored earlier in the second period to tie things up. And then it was Danton Heinen who gave the Bruins some insurance in the 3rd period before Trent Frederick kept his hot streak going with the 4th goal of the night to seal it. James van Riemsdyk, overall last night, 3 points, 1 goal, and 2 assists to raise his point total to 25 for the season. And according to NHL Public Relations, Van Riemsdyk, by recording his first 3-point outing in a Boston uniform, helped the Bruins overtake the Rangers for top spot in the league standings. We'll touch on that coming up later on. But he also became the fastest player to record their first 25 points with the Bruins since Marc Savard in 2006-07. And that's pretty remarkable considering James van Riemsdyk is 34 years old. And the fact that he is coming off a season in which he recorded only 29 points total for the Philadelphia Flyers, albeit in 61 games. But he is right on track for just a fantastic career resurgence, a James Van Renaissance, if you will, here with the Boston Bruins. And the way he's playing, we'd like to see him stick around for a much longer period of time. He's currently on pace for 16 goals and 41 assists for a total of 57 points in a projected 77 games played. that would account for some injuries that have already happened and such. And that would put him right up there with some of the best seasons of his career. He had a 61-point season with the Maple Leafs, a 62-point season with them later on. He's hit 54, 56. This would put him right up there and certainly much better than he was last season with the Flyers. Kevin Shattenkirk, 5 goals in 30 games for the Bruins. He's already eclipsed the 4 that he scored last season for the Anaheim Ducks. And Danton Heinen, as was pointed out by Scott McLaughlin of WEEI, he has more even strength points this season than Tyler Bertuzzi with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's on pace for 11 goals, 16 assists for 27 points over 64 games. And that pace has certainly picked up in recent games. He had kind of a slower December, only 4 points, 7 points the month before. But I mean, at his contract, any production they get out of him is a bonus. It was nice to see Jake DeBrusk stay on the score sheet last night as well. He had the primary assist on Van Riemsdyk's power play goal. Just a nice all-around effort from some secondary players here last night. I had talked yesterday about how the 3-game winning streak had really been fueled by their best players. David Pastrnak, Brad Marchand, Charlie Coyle, Charlie McAvoy had all stepped up. And last night, it was these complementary players who led the way for the Boston Bruins. And Don Sweeney just, looks pretty smart for signing these guys to these bargain basement deals. They're probably earning themselves bigger contracts for next season, and we'll see if they are able to remain with the Bruins. The cap, of course, will go up, but Van Riemsdyk, 25 points at $1 million is just insane here right now for the Boston Bruins. And if you go to Cap Friendly and use their cost per point tool, there aren't very many veterans who are bringing more value to their teams than James van Riemsdyk. Right now, $40,000 per point. All the other players in this category are on their entry-level deals. I mean, Connor Bedard, obviously, Lucas Raymond, Seth Jarvis, Stefan Nazen is bringing pretty good value for the Carolina Hurricanes. He's got 23 points in 38 games for them. But Van Riemsdyk, 25 points, 34 games, making $1 million. That is 40,000 per point, about 2,000 per minute, and just fantastic value that he is bringing to the Boston Bruins and to my fantasy team at the moment as well. Danton Heinen is 54th in the NHL in terms of cost per point. Matt Poitras is up there as well on the entry-level deal. And then you have Kevin Shattenkirk at 103 as well. So savvy moves here by Don Sweeney, not only keeping Poitras with the Bruins, albeit until the World Juniors. He should be back sooner than expected because Canada lost yesterday to Czechia in the quarterfinals. But great value from these guys. And again, everybody was clamoring to keep Bertuzzi, to try to keep Orlov. Oh no, we lost Taylor Hall. We lost Nick Foligno. The guys that they've brought in have more than met expectations, and they are great moves here for Don Sweeney. And it's a big reason why the Bruins are first overall here on January 3rd, and we'll touch on that here as the podcast continues. As the NFL season wraps up very soon, there's still time to get on the action with FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. Their app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays, new Explore tab that they have where you can find bets that you might not have even thought of, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet on NFL, NHL, NBA. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, if you open up NHL.com today, you will see, and this could be good news or bad news depending on your perspective, the Boston Bruins first overall in the NHL. 52 points, a 722 point percentage, one more point than the New York Rangers, the Vancouver Canucks, the Colorado Avalanche, two more than the Winnipeg Jets. And in the Atlantic, they're 4 points up on the Florida Panthers with a game in hand. Their goal differential of plus 26 puts them fourth in the NHL. They have won 4 in a row, which is, well, not really the longest streak. The Oilers, Panthers have won 6 and 5 in a row, respectively. The Seattle Kraken have won 5 in a row as well. Now, speaking of the Oilers, are they back in a playoff spot yet? Ooh, very close. Only 1 point out after their near disastrous start to the season, which is pretty impressive. Now, depending on how you look at it, that's a good thing or a bad thing for the Boston Bruins. A, we want them to win on a nightly basis, and it's just remarkable. I just can't even fathom how the Bruins are first overall after having lost Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci. I've said this so many times. Losing those two, foundational centers, not to mention Taylor Hall, Nick Foligno, Tyler Bertuzzi, Dmitry Orlov, and still being first overall at this point in the season is just incredible. Yes, we haven't even reached the halfway point yet. Yes, there's still so much hockey to play. Yes, many only look at regular season success as the playoff success as the true measuring stick of a team's greatness or goodness even. But you can't deny how impressive it is for the Bruins to be in first place at this point in the season. A lot of that credit goes to Don Sweeney for making these bargain signings that have complemented the core that remains. A lot of the credit as well goes to the goaltending tandem of Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark. Swayman is at a .928 save percentage, which ranks third among all goalies who have at least 15 appearances this season. Linus Ullmark, a .918 save percentage. Both of those guys, the decision to keep that goaltending tandem together rather than buy into the temptation to sell high on Linus Ullmark has paid off dividends. And of course, Jim Montgomery deserves a lot of credit as well. It's fairly, I don't want to say easy, but we can more easily accept a season like they had last year in this kind of last dance all-in scenario. But this was supposed to be more of a transition season for the Boston Bruins. It was supposed to be a year in which they ate the bonus overages for Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci. Don't forget, they are spending $4.5 million in empty cash right now. That's a pretty good player that you could fit into the lineup with that money. Very limited draft picks, very limited cap space. They went for these bargain guys and they've paid off. Jim Montgomery deserves a lot of credit, perhaps more this season than last season, for the way that the Bruins have been playing. Now, again, there's the President's Trophy curse to take into account. There's the, just not facing a ton of adversity through the season. I think the Bruins, their status atop, they're not breaking any records along the way right now. They are just getting the job done most nights, more than all the rest, really. And we'll see here. I think the key is at least keeping hold of first place in the Atlantic, because otherwise you could be playing the Maple Leafs, the Tampa Bay Lightning in round one. The Maple Leafs pretty susceptible at the moment, although Martin Jones has been playing okay in the absence of Joseph Woll and with Ilya Samsonov having been waived. But playing one of those wild card, who knows really? It doesn't even matter if you finish first, as we saw last year. But we want consistency. We want your best players to be your best players, secondary guys stepping up. And that is indeed what is happening as of late. And I should mention as well, good on Hampus Lindholm for chipping in. A lot of people have been criticizing his game this season, but I think he's been picking it up a little bit here over the last little bit. He had a power play assist last night on James van Riemsdyk's goal, and overall playing a little bit better than he had been to start the season. 22 minutes of ice time. He had a shot, a hit. It was a +1, and good on the Bruins for getting that win last night. Jumping back into first place overall. It's not a bad place to be. Another team looking to start hot in the new year and finish in first place this season is the PWHL Boston team. They named their captain yesterday with the help of a former Bruins captain, and we'll talk about that here as the podcast continues. Gametime is the best place to visit this year for all your ticketing needs. Whether you're going to a sporting event, a concert, to comedy, theater, they have last-minute killer deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee, taking all the guesswork out of buying tickets. With their Gametime guarantee, it means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. My favorite part is the view from your seat, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, just create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. That's Gametime, last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. All right, today is a historic day in Boston as the PWHL team will kick off its regular season against Minnesota. And yesterday, the captain was named with the help of a former Boston Bruins captain and franchise legend, Patrice Bergeron. The game will take place tonight at Lowell's Tsongas Center, and forward Hillary Knight has been named captain of a roster loaded with some of the best talent in women's hockey. And all credit to Boston GM Danielle Marmer, who worked for the Bruins last season. She tapped into those connections and got Patrice Bergeron to make the official announcement, handing Knight her new jersey with the C stitched in place. And Bergeron said it's a historical moment. We always need leaders, As a former captain in Boston, you're representing your teammates, you're representing a community, you're representing your fan base, but also you're a role model for the younger generation, the young girls that want to be in your shoes one day. And I think the person I'm about to name is an amazing ambassador for women's hockey and will be an amazing representative of this team and this organization. So, the first captain in PWHL Boston history from Sun Valley, Idaho, is Hillary Knight. The 34-year-old has established herself as one of the absolute greatest women's hockey players of all time. A four-time Olympian, gold medal winner in 2018, 3 silver medals, the 2023 IIHF Female Player of the Year, career leading scorer at the Women's World Championships. She will be joined by her alternate captains, Jamie Lee Rattray and Megan Keller. And again, PWHL Boston kicking off their season tonight against Minnesota. And I just encourage you to get down there and check them out. Just some amazing players on this roster, and very excited to see how they come together. PWHL Boston, you got to go to Lowell to see them, but well worth the trek. And they'll be in action tonight, then again on Monday against Ottawa, before coming up here to Canada to take on Montreal and Toronto. I got to get down to one of these games downtown Toronto here one of these days, because it's going to be a very exciting season. The Bruins practicing today at noon before getting ready to hit the road for their next, no, actually they're at home for their next game against the Pittsburgh Penguins on Thursday. Then on Saturday, they take on the Tampa Bay Lightning before heading out on a Western Conference road trip. And we'll be sure to bring you all the latest on the Black and Gold and PWHL Boston here on Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Hope you're all having a great week. Please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, kill them with kindness, and we'll talk to you again here tomorrow on Locked On Boston Bruins.